Well, of course, it is quite difficult to balance those two aspects. We say that agriculture sector, including forestry and livestock, contributes altogether about 24% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So it's the second biggest sector after energy. And at the same time, we know that we need to increase food production by about 50% to feed a growing population of the world and to, of course, make up for dietary changes. People are eating more energy-dense foods and more meats. And at the same time, food production itself is affected by climate change. Now, how we do that is, of course, the hard part, especially because any gains in productivity that we get will most likely be in the northern hemisphere. Countries like Canada and Russia may see some actual improvements in growing conditions in the north, but the poorest countries in the south are the ones that are going to be most affected by food insecurity. So there are solutions, they're not easy ones, and they will be expensive to implement. Absolutely, it is at risk. And remember that food insecurity has been going up for the last 3 years in any case. We now have 821 million people in the world that do not have enough food every day to eat. We have another 2 billion people who are affected by malnourishment. And we have a large number of people also that are affected by inappropriate nutrition. Overweight and obesity is also a growing problem from poor nutrition. World food production is at risk from climate change, both by disrupting patterns and especially by affecting the most the people who can afford it the least right now. Well, there's some very good examples of that. We already have a very good cooperation with the dairy sector. There's a voluntary compact that was signed between FAO and the global dairy industry in 2016, which has set some voluntary targets for reducing emission intensity in dairy products. This is a very good example. We currently have solutions to reduce about 1/3 of the emissions from livestock through better feeding practices, better manure waste management, which is a source of nitrous oxide, and through better feed and practices. So 1/3 of those emissions could be reduced right away, but it takes a bit more will to do so, and it's not yet happening. Absolutely. This is something that everybody needs to be aware of, and it's a very personal choice. People obviously need to eat a balanced and healthy and nutritious diet. This is one of the most important things. But in doing so, we can be aware of our dietary choices, which are not just a question of saying more meat, less meat. These are very personal choices, and we need a balance there once again. Some people maybe need to eat a bit more meat, and some people maybe eat a lot less. But it's also about distance, about the mileage that your food has traveled, about whether it's being refrigerated or it's fresh, about the waste. We currently estimate that 1/3 of all food produced is lost or wasted. If we could eliminate that loss and waste, that would already be 2/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions eliminated. So it's a huge potential. We're doing a lot. It would be a very long list. I mean, FAO is an organization with 13,000 people and 150 presidents in countries. So, but just one key idea is climate change is not something that is happening and will end. The CO2 that we put in the atmosphere is going to stay there for at least 100 years. So even if we stop emitting tomorrow, it will continue to heat up for the next century. So innovation is a continuous process, and it has to adapt all the time. We're looking at helping farmers and producers in rural areas to boost their knowledge capital. People can no longer rely on traditional practices, what their grandfather did. That doesn't work anymore because cropping patterns are changing. The whole climate is changing, and they have to adapt regularly and all the time to new systems. So information, applications, data analysis, everything from drone systems for crop analysis, water measurement, greenhouses. There's a lot of technical innovation and a lot more to be discovered, but that's going to be the big solution.